Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Ben, Chris Milton, here for Outer Rim Transmission, episode 187. We are diving into some fan media tonight. We are talking all about a few select fan films that each of us has contributed for this show tonight, and they happen to all be post Return of the Jedi, so hence the title. That wasn't planned originally, but just how it ended up. We got another update from Star Wars Celebration in Japan to go through as well. Some beautiful artwork that we'll be taking a look at on the stream tonight. But yes, it's been a first time in a while since all three of us has been around the virtual table, so to speak. So Milton, how's it going, man? It's been a little bit.
It's good to be back, man. I am happy to be back. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you broke out like a robot for a minute there, but I think you're good now.
So I'm happy to be back. Sorry, this is live, people. To switch to use my tablet to get on. If it doesn't work out, I'll probably to my phone. But to be back. Super Bowl, Philadelphia Eagles. Let's go. We got that dub. I want to hear no one else talk about Patrick Mahomes being the GOAT. Okay, Tom Brady's still the GOAT. But other than that, though, glad to be back. Excited to talk some Star Wars. I'm really looking forward to tonight's conversation for sure.
Oh, one thing I wanted to bring up, because now that the NFL is over, you said you might have some more free time. Have you gotten on to Jedi Fallen Order at all in the last couple weeks?
No, I have not. I have not. I plan on doing that probably over the next month as my schedule is changing. I mean, right priority is obviously planning my wedding for this upcoming June, but we'll take some time to actually sit down to probably play. Because I know you guys keep telling me to get into that game, and I did tell you my fiance bought me the sequel to the first one, so I have to sit down and actually start playing those.
Yeah, it's going to be cool to go from the first game right into the second game and not have to wait like 3 years like the rest of us did. So that'll be a good experience at least. And we might need you to switch over to your phone. I feel like there is a little bit of a delay, and it seems like it's breaking up just a little bit. But I'm going to throw it over to Ben in the meantime. How's it going, Ben?
Good, man. It's been a good week. Down about 11 pounds on the diet, so that's exciting. Just really getting into the fitness grind and just staying consistent with it. And I'm finally getting in a good, consistent phase where I'm hitting my calories day in, day out, and it's just like, I'm not being inconsistent, basically. So it's been good. It's been good getting on track with that. And then, excited to hop on here and talk some Star Wars, considering we have a really fun topic tonight to talk about with all these fan films. And tonight, I guess, while Milton's rejoining, I'll just hop into my week in Star Wars. So my week actually is a prequel to our topic, just because. So tonight's topic, of course, is post Return of the Jedi fan films. So for me, for my week in Star Wars, when I was looking up fan films and everything, one classic fan film popped up, which was the Kenobi fan film from Jamie Costa, who's a pretty known impressionist, and then Matt Lanter actually starred in it as well, who also played Obi-Wan. And it's a great fan film. It's like 15 minutes long, and it's really good because it starts out with Obi-Wan having like PTSD flashbacks with Qui-Gon, and then you have Owen and Beru and Luke, young Luke, basically at this time that Empire's going around the galaxy, like basically taking a galaxy-wide census. And, of course they come to the Lars hut and they find Luke, and then Obi-Wan intervenes. And it's so funny, like some of the like kind of insider jokes they have built in, because they have Matt Lanter, who's playing the main Imperial officer. And he's talking to Obi-Wan, and he's like, "Don't I know you from somewhere? You look really familiar." And they go back and forth. They have some nice classic like Obi-Wan lines, and like, he takes his lightsaber out, fights stormtroopers, and it's a really good fan film. And it was really well produced and stuff, just because Jamie Costa has a big platform, and he was able to like really get some good production value out of it. And of course, like I said, being friends with Matt Lanter helps as well with some of the marketing. But yeah, so that was kind of my week in Star Wars, kind of a prequel to our topic tonight. And yeah, that's one of the classic ones. That was from 5 or 6 years ago in like 2019 or 2020.
Yeah, I still have to give that one a watch. I find it odd though how he'd be able to legally do like any like fan film. I because he's an official Star Wars actor, I didn't know if like Lucasfilm would be like, no, we don't want you in anything unofficial. Like, it's one thing if it was before he became Anakin, but I find that interesting. It's nice though that Lucasfilm lets him do that, because I'm sure he probably had to get the okay from them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm sure he probably had to, but I guess I don't know. I guess since it's like the spirit of what a lot of like the stuff with like George Lucas, like encouraged fan films, they probably ended up being fine with it, and it was just kind of like, it was a pretty like respectful fan film. Like there was nothing like, it wasn't like a fan film like where it'd be like taking shots at like Disney Star Wars or something. It was literally just like standalone Obi-Wan story, and yeah, it was really good. And of course, being Obi-Wan, when he walks up, with the first thing he says to the Imperial officer is "Hello there," and like that whole thing. But it's really good. Like it's impressive what they do with it. Like in terms of like the graphics, the lightsaber effect looks great. I mean, it looks really really good, and yeah, it's a big recommend for me in terms of fan films.
Awesome. So there you go. Check that out. As far as for me with my week in Star Wars, I took a trip to my local comic shop, because now I'm basically going there monthly, because Dark Horse Marvel sends me and Matthew over at the Star Wars Underworld like our comics digitally to just review. So we appreciate them sending that out to us. But of course, I'm still going to support my local shop. So I just let the issues kind of build up over time. Which is fun, but also daunting on the wallet when you just go ahead and shed out the cash. You're like, ooh, yeah, that's the month worth of comics all in one go. It's a little bit of money there. But, right. It's just always fun to just like, oh yeah, like I had this YouTuber friend, Mass Panther. He would do this every week. He'd be like, all right, guys, here. And he would do this like weekly. This is, for me, this is enough for 1 month. It's just like, oh, there's a stack of comics. There's a stack of comics, everybody. We got everything from High Republic to sequel trilogy to Ahsoka to everything else in between. High Republic. So, hey, you want to hear all of our thoughts? That's where we're over on the Star Wars Underworld every Wednesday. 9 o'clock Eastern, and I also review the comics here. There's our plug for our other show there, but but that's that was my week. It's always fun to go in there. But also, I was in Walmart today picking up some supplies, and I found I probably should have sent this to you guys like right before we went live, so you know what I'm talking about. But apparently they have this new Star Wars brand called. Well, actually, there's a couple things I'll mention. There's these things called Doorables. And Doorables, I don't know. All I know is I seen the advertisement, like on one of the end aisles, like the title and the cardboard and all. Ala Secura is like the lead person on this thing. Yeah, exactly, Ben. That was my reaction. I'm walking on like I've never seen Ala Secura as like a front-facing character of anything before. It was like Ala Secura. It was a Porg. And I think it was Rey, but they're like it's like the Disney styling of them. So they have like a super big head, small body. Like they're supposed to be like little cute things, for like 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, or whatever. But that's what I was just throwing out to you guys. I'm like, wow, like they went for a deep cut Jedi. It's good to see Ala Secura front and center in the middle of an aisle at Walmart there.
Yeah, that's odd. I mean, definitely got my reaction when you just said that, because it was like, out of all the characters, they choose her. Like, I don't know, it's surprising it wasn't like Rey, a Porg, and like Grogu or something, Yeah. So like, I don't know, it's interesting too, in terms of choosing that character, because like I mean, let's all be real here for a minute. Like Ayla's character, like they make her character model and the way she dresses and things kind of provocative and stuff. So like to make it like for like a kid's toy, that's just so interesting that they chose her of all prequel characters versus someone like more neutral. I don't know, like shock tea or something.
Yeah, it was interesting for sure. And it wasn't even in the toy aisle. This is like smack dab in the main aisle adjacent to like one of the toy aisles. So really trying to sell some all secure adorables apparently. But and then actually on the end of that aisle, they have a whole new toy line. This brings me back to the 90s because they have these like, I forget what they're called, but they're these like jacked up like action figures, like bulky guys. Like they got stormtroopers, they got Chewbacca, they got Boba Fett, and they're like meant to be like you take their arms off and you can mix match them with the other figures, so you can have like a Chewbacca head on a Boba Fett chest with stormtrooper legs, you know, one of those like fun mashup figures. So I thought that was cool. I was like, oh, that, you know, I don't know. I'm assuming it's Hasbro because I figured they're the ones that do all the toys. But it's like, all right, hey, if I was a little kid, I'd be like, yeah, I'd be jiving with this for sure. Look at my stormtrooper with my Boba Fett head, you know.
Yeah, those are classic parts of Star Wars.
Yeah, so that's about all I got for this week. Do you guys have anything else to say with this before we move into our main topic?
Yeah, just want to, let you guys know that I'm still planning on going to Steel City Comic Con in April in Pittsburgh. So, and at that particular Comic Con, Hayden Christensen is going to be there. So I am looking to get tickets this week to go out to Pittsburgh in about a month or so.
Oh my gosh, wow. So that's crazy. So Hayden's going there and then he's going to fly right to Japan because we just got an announcement he's going to be there as well. That's cool.
Yeah, so I can pull up the list right now.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second here. So, because I was talking to my fiance about it because we were looking to plan a trip out there. I'll probably go by myself because she's having her bridal shower that weekend, it looks like. But so when it comes to Star Wars related alum that are featured for that weekend, so it's from April 4th to the 6th. Hayden Christensen is going to be there. Katie Sackhoff is going to be there. And I think that's the only Star Wars alum celebrity so far. I don't see any voice actors that are there currently. So yeah, now I can tell you this: the heavy hitters that are coming to this event: Christopher Lloyd, Henry Winkler, John Cusack, Stephen Baldwin, James Vanderbeek, Mario Lopez, Bret Hart, Jimmy Hart, and there's probably gonna be more coming that we don't know of yet. But yeah, so far it's a good list of people.
Dang, that'll be awesome. Yeah, because I heard of Steel City Comic Con before.
Yeah.
That'll be neat. Hopefully, maybe Hayden does like a panel or something. You could just see him talk.
Yeah. So he is doing that. So I can actually pull up the schedule. So listen to the schedule right now. Like I've been looking into this. So it looks like he is going to be there Friday and Saturday. He's doing photo ops. He's doing signatures. And I don't know if he's doing a panel. I have to look into that further. But I just know that he's doing those 2 days and what he's doing currently. But, yeah.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a rite of passage, Ben. You got to get out to a Comic-Con and get a picture with a Star Wars actor, man.
Oh, yeah. I know.
It's not cheap at all, as I was telling you guys. It's not cheap, but it's one thing you just do once in your life, and you just say, I marked it off my bucket list.
Here's the thing. Just to get an autograph is $225.
Oh my gosh!
And then get a photo op with him is $212.
That's about the price I paid for the photo with Mark and Carrie. So that's about right. Sounds about right.
I know that's like I know every other year the Arrow Big Three, they come up here to Detroit City Comic Con and their photo op is only but it's like $160 for all three of them, which next year I think they're coming in 2026. I definitely want to go to that.
Now
it'll be awesome for you to be there, Milton, and get to see all those people, and of course, just I think the best thing about these things, I'm sure Chris can attest to it more than I can. It's just being around all these other people that love this stuff too.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
And like that's why like I've been to like smaller ones that are like local where I live, but I've never been like to the major ones. Like I said, I want to go to New York Comic Con someday. I know Steel City, is a big one. Philadelphia is another one that I've never always wanted to go. And I was like, well, Hayden's going to be there. Whether I get to go get a picture with him or not, if he does a panel, like that'd be kind of dope to kind of go there, hear him talk about his experience in Star Wars or his career. And just honestly, just to see that environment. Because, I mean, I always try to tell people that when they always make fun of me. They're like, why do you like this kind of stuff? I'm like, dude, a lot of normal people that are like us that have everyday jobs like this stuff. And, like, it's our childhood. Like, the first thing we liked in life were, let's say, Power Rangers or, G.I. Joe or Transformers. Like, we love comic books and video games as kids. That was our first loves in life. So when you're in your 30s or 40s, get the opportunity to see these people that influenced you. Why wouldn't you want to at least take advantage of it? So that's part of my motivation, and it's fun. Like, you kind of be a kid for a couple of days. You get to go to like a nice, beautiful city to like explore a little bit. Why not?
Yeah, no, I'm. Go ahead, Ben.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I think the best part about that, Milton, is just like. I think one thing too many people get caught up in with a lot of these fandoms with Star Wars or whatever it may be. It's like, people get in the mindset sometimes of like, oh, well, it's for kids or we're outgrowing it or whatever. But the thing is, like, once you come back around to it and when you're like in your 30s and 40s and everything, you're like, you know what? I like what I like and I'm going to go do what I want with my free time. And that's what the best part about all this stuff is, honestly.
I agree 100%. And it's not like I'm spending, thousands of dollars to go do X, Y, and Z. It's the fact that if I'm spending $40 a ticket to spend, a couple days in Pittsburgh so I can eat some good food, see the city, go to this convention for a couple days and like might, buy some cool comic book or some figs or something for a collection. Why wouldn't I? Like, that's a once in a lifetime. That's like I was telling my fiance, I said, like it's like going to a WrestleMania. Like who would pass it up when a WrestleMania is right there in your backyard, or going to like a Super Bowl if it was right there in your backyard. If you had the money, and you were fiscally responsible for that year, might as well take the opportunity to do it if you can.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. I don't really get any pushback anymore from anybody with going to conventions. All these people I train at my job, I'm like, all right, so I'm going away in Japan. They're like, oh, what are you doing out there? And I always have to like preface it in an odd way. And I don't even know why I do this anymore. I'm like, well, they're all like, oh, you're going out there for like an athletic conference or something? I'm like, I always laugh. I'm like, it's actually the complete polar opposite of that. I'm a huge nerd. I'm going there for a Star Wars convention, and like the reaction I get is always like this really fun, elated reaction from like all my clients and all the people I'm training. They're just like, "Oh, it's so awesome! I love Star Wars!" Like everybody that we train that's my age is basically millennial and Gen X, and all those people grew up with Star Wars anyway. So that's for all those people, they're like, my childhood, exactly what you said. They're like, they're thinking, they're always saying like, oh, it's got to be so much fun. You guys get in costume and like you go around. I'm like, well, I'm not bringing my costume to Japan this year, but yes, it's freaking awesome because you're around people that all love the same thing you do,
Right, exactly. And that's the thing too. Like, first of all, if you tell me, if I didn't know you said, hey, I'm going to Japan for Star Wars Celebration, I'd have been jealous because you're going to Japan. Like, right. So it's the fact that, like, I'm glad that people can enjoy what they enjoy. And honestly, if I wanted to pull the trigger and get a photo op with Hayden or have him sign something, I already know what I would have him sign. Like, I would have him sign my Boba Fett helmet or my Star Wars Special Edition Gold Box VHSs that I have.
Yep.
Oh, that's a good one.
It'd be one of those two.
Yeah. So there you go. Nice opening salvo by the team here. We're going to just dive right into the episode proper. So before we do, some housekeeping. If you guys are new to the channel, we go live every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And, we're in a bit of a lull right now, but that's okay because we have really fun conversations in the lead up to the news and the things that we review on this channel, on this show. If you want to listen to us, that's also okay because we are available on Apple, on Spotify, on anywhere that podcatchers are found. Just search Outer Rim Transmission. Getting into the week's releases for This week, we had Ahsoka issue number 8 of 8. The adaptation is now complete. We also have the High Republic Fear of the Jedi number 1, leading us into the finale for the High Republic, which actually finishes up in June. So the big thing that does pertain to conventions is we have, and I know that Milton will really enjoy this, a lot of the people really into concept art and art in general. We have every year every time at Star Wars Celebration, we have an art show. And this is so cool. It's like in the middle of the showroom floor, they have, and I'm pulling it, I think you guys could see that now on YouTube. I'm scrolling through StarWars.com. They have an art show literally on the show floor. And it's got red carpet. It's got these columns with these different awesome pieces of art. And the deal with these is that you could actually, there's 250 available, period. Only if you have a ticket for Celebration can you buy them. I think it's you can buy up to you have 200 available ahead of time, but then they have 50 available for those that are actually at the show that day or that weekend. So these are all just original art from different people across the world. Like, as I'm not going to go through each one of these. I'm just going to kind of quickly scroll through everything from, Luke Skywalker to Separatist to the Acolyte. That's the great one of Pieces of Lie with the stranger there. Different ones like droids. You have stuff, all the different versions of Ahsoka, from animated looks to live action. It's a really cool thing. And like I said, it's got this cool feeling to it where you're walking around looking at a gallery of nothing but amazing Star Wars artwork, and if you want, you could pick up one if they have any available for the way home. One of my favorites is the Clone Wars ones. Are you guys seeing this? I don't know if you guys have like the stream pulled up. I should have sent you the pictures, but I'm doing it different this time. Darkness on Umbara. That is one of my favorite moments in the Clone Wars. They have all the different clones. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that looks cool.
Even this Boba Fett one with the comic book feel, or this Black Chrysanthemum, Cad Bane. It looks like that Marvel kind of thing, but it's got the Japanese lettering, of course, because we're having a Japanese one. Right. Even this little Chibo one with Ahsoka. I enjoy just scrolling through all these because these are really high quality. And they're prints.
It's gorgeous.
Oh, that Anakin one is really cool with the hilt, right in his eye line. Oh man.
Oh yeah, that is cool.
So really cool stuff here. Oh, this one is sick though. This is, as if Star Wars was imagined in like an Akira Kurosawa samurai film. The characters, even Chewbacca is basically just like a bear. Luke has basically more of a robe, like a samurai robe, and Vader's straight up like dark samurai. This is cool stuff. My favorite one though is probably this one I'm looking at, called Freighters of Fortune. And it's got the Falcon, it's got the Ghost, it's got the Fondor, or whatever that one's called, from Luthen Rail from Andor. Yep. But it actually has the YT 2400, aka the Outrider from Shadows of the Empire, Dash Rendar's ship there. Funnily enough, though, they don't actually have the face of Dash Rendar like all the other characters are representing their ships. So I don't know if that's like a Lucasfilm thing. Like, no, don't put him on there. He's not canon or something. I don't know. But I find that odd.
Yeah, that's great. At least they recognize the ship.
Yeah. So.
Well, he's inside the ship, so.
But yeah, there we go. Fun way of looking at the history of Star Wars with all different depictions of it. Did any of those stick out to you guys? Any of those images there?
I think the one with the ship with Dash Rendar's one. I like that look.
Yep.
Yeah, that one. And then obviously the anything with like the Japanese, the Kurosawa feel to it. I mean, that's very much an anime type feel to me when I see that. So I've always enjoyed that type of look to Star Wars.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand. Japan is a lot of the inspiration for Lucas with exactly Seven Samurai, Hidden Fortress. everything about the mythology of the Far East, everything incorporated into the Force, like fighting style, the different ideals of a Jedi, all that good stuff, mysticism, very, very influenced. So very, very cool stuff there. What about you, Ben? Which one do you like?
Yeah, I mean that's the same thing for me. It's nice seeing them put in Dash's ship in there. I really like that, and I just think it's a good image in general. That's definitely my favorite one of the bunch. Like, I don't know. I just think for us being like older fans, especially in particular, like me and Milton big fans of like the EU and stuff like that. It's cool seeing them acknowledge, pieces of that era. So I really liked that they threw in the Outrider like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So it is now time to get into our main topic of the evenings, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to get into some of our favorite fan films that take place specifically post Return of the Jedi. So I got to give a shout out to my good old buddy, friend of the show, Dark Nerdy Gonzo. He joins us from time to time on the channel when he's not working, and he had sent me this random video one day through X, and it was all like, "Hey, Star Wars 4 with Arnold Schwarzenegger." I said, "Okay, this seems ridiculous. I got to watch this thing." So that's where all this came from. That's where the because otherwise we're like, okay, what are we going to talk about this week? We got to find a topic. And I feel like, Milton, you've been chopping at the bit to talk about one of the fan films that we're going to talk about with you tonight. And I know, Ben, you gave me a really good one as well. That's really cool. And just to kind of preamble this whole discussion, I think between the three of us, we've all picked really good ones that are both different thematically in their way they're represented, but the way the content is represented and the way that one of them is more of a trailer, another one is an anime or animated, another one is like not even like animation, it's just concept art and pictures and AI. It's AI and so I think this is really cool to take a look, like a long top level look at all these different ways that people are able to flex their creativity with tools like AI and with just their own creative thinking and whatnot. So yeah, it's really, really good. So we'll just throw it off with mine that kind of started this whole thing off. Did you guys get a chance to watch this one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Star Wars 4?
I'm actually looking at it right now as we speak.
Yeah, it's as Milton looks at it. Yeah, it's definitely interesting, Milton. Like, I never imagined until Chris sent that through. I never really imagined Arnold in Star Wars, but like watching that, I was like, man, this is actually pretty clever. What they did here. But
honestly, I think I would watch this movie. I don't have the sound on. I'm just watching the clips. I kind of like the look of this. Like, this feels like a mix of like obviously something from the 80s and some part of the 90s, but like Spaceballs.
Yep.
At times. But it's like, I think I would watch this and kind of be okay with it. Like, it's the acting's probably atrocious, but like, I think I would watch this.
Oh my gosh. This, first of all, from a feeling, you said it feels like the 80s, like the way the film grain is on this thing, the way the music sounds, like this looks like it's Running Man. And like all these other 80s movies that Arnold Schwarzenegger was in, even the gratuitous violence, like when people get shot, just like blood and guts like Predator, just like everywhere,
Yeah, love it. It's over the top. It's like it kind of feels like a mix from like an 80s film with like Quentin Tarantino like directing this, but like with horrific dialogue. But I would love every second of it. I don't know why.
Yeah,
and I don't understand why Will Smith's in it, because that makes no sense. However, I still would watch it.
We have Rhodians playing guitars. We have a lot of scantily clad women that are fighting with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, you look at the content, this is exactly the kind of stuff you would see if, exactly, Quentin Tarantino did Star Wars. And it's like, oh yeah, like I like the way they actually code it. It's like Star Wars 4, 1994. It took this is the next movie after Return of the Jedi. It took them about 9 years to make this movie.
Right. And I'll say this. The positives for this, though, honest to God, I kind of do like the worlds that they're building. Like, the way it looks. I'm thinking, oh my God.
The look of it.
the world actually does feel like it's Star Wars, like the how it looks. I think this could have worked, like partly.
It is, looks like, and it's cool because I think they're actually using maybe concept art from one of these speeders from the Battle of Endor, like instead of a speeder bike. Like I'm seeing different things. I'm seeing Ewoks with freaking armor on. Like this is just like stuff that is just crazy how people would think about this,
Yeah, I am very baffled, yet impressed, yet thinking, yeah, this probably isn't going to make a lot of money, but I'd give my money to watch it.
Yeah, and you got to go back in time to, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger is basically like the Rock Johnson now. Like he was just getting, like, Rock is getting put in everything. It's like, oh yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger, yeah, throw him in Star Wars. There you go.
Yeah, and it just wouldn't work. I mean, it wouldn't work because he's too recognizable. He's too, I wouldn't say one-dimensional, but it's true. Like, you'd have to cover him up and make him an alien or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just baffled by the way they're able to make AI do this, Like, that's insane. Right?
Yeah,
this is basically all just rendered with AI, right?
Yeah, it looks like it's a mix of, like, AI, mix of some, like, footage that's kind of been spliced or merged together. But, I mean, they did a hell of a job making it look like the way it did. And I'm sure there was some live action stuff that they had to shoot to fit into this a little bit.
Well, that's the thing, right? Yeah. I'm looking at the YouTube profile, and I'm assuming that this is from this original channel that I was sent. It's from Ryan Lightborn, and it's got 128,000 views, 1,119 comments. He's got a little over 1,000 subscribers. Right. It's like, how in the world?
Well, I guess my question is, does he credit anyone in, like, his, like, title of his video to say, like, oh, this footage came from X, Y, and Z, or
the description of the video.
Yeah, so he's created using Hunyuan Video, Halua Minimax X SDXL 1.0, Flux 0.1 Dev, Swarm UI, and Grok 2. I know Grok is definitely AI.
Yeah. I'm just curious to see, like, I mean, because some of this looks, obviously a lot of it's AI and, computer generated, but I'm sure, like, some of this stuff has to be, like, footage that had to have been shot somewhere, because this looks like these are sound stages.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I don't think anybody would have the budget to make this. This is why it's got to be all AI, this is the crazy part. And hey, if I showed my mom or my dad this, they would be like, oh, when's this movie coming out? Like, they wouldn't even question it. They wouldn't question it for a moment. Show anybody. A lot of people will get fooled. I know it can't be possible, obviously, but, like, it's getting crazy with AI how believable stuff's getting these days.
Right. Not facts.
But yeah, this is oh my gosh, and at the end they basically have, like, death troopers at the end of this thing, it looks like.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, directed by Ryan Lightborn.
Oh yeah.
This little tiny channel on YouTube, give this guy credit, was able to just do this.
And this would be, like, the perfect spoof to, like, Star Wars, honestly, if you want to make it, like, be like that extreme type spoof.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. Look it up. Star Wars 4 1994. There will be links in this YouTube channel and in the podcast feed for all the YouTube's, all the videos we're going to talk about to give these guys and girls the fair credit they deserve. This is really cool, creative stuff here. I'll throw the next one over to Ben. I'll let you introduce this one since this is yours for tonight.
Yeah. So my video or my fan film I found tonight was one that only came out a couple weeks ago. This Jar Jar Django channel. They're creating a series for the Heir to the Empire books. The classic Zahn trilogy. And what they're doing, and I didn't realize this until after the first watch when I looked at the description in the comment section. So what they're doing is they're tweaking little parts of the Heir to the Empire trilogy to make it fit the continuity of 1 through 6. And what I messaged in our group chat. So basically, what they did, this little fan film, they made it anime style, and they copied. Obviously they're copying, the first Zahn book, and they started out. The start of the actual book is Luke meeting with Obi-Wan and talking with him and all this, and then you have a scene with Talon Card and Mara Jade in there, and then you have them communicating with Admiral Pelion and Thrawn, and they're coming down to Mount Tantus to recover some Islamari, which they repel the Force, and then when Thrawn and the crew go into Mount Tantus, they run into, which I was shocked at first because the original story is Joruus Sabayoth, and it turns out to be Mace Windu, and I was like, what in the world?
I know.
And then and that threw me for a complete loop. And then I scrolled down and looked at the comments section and seen where they did this, and this is the point where I was bringing up, Milton, that it's genius what they're doing, because they mentioned they're fitting it into the continuity, and basically, retrospectively looking back on that trilogy, Joruus Sabayoth is just a clone, and basically he's a clone because the Empire recovered DNA from him from the temple, so theoretically they could have done the same with Mace Windu, and Mace Windu's the evil clone in this situation. And I was like, oh man, like this is actually perfect what they're doing, because like Joruus Sabayoth, his character, it's kind of like Mace, where he's kind of on the edge of being bad or good or whatever, and like this was a perfect way to do things, to like kind of put a new spin on the Zahn trilogy, but still make it basically 90% the same, other than subbing out Sabayoth for Mace Windu. So I thought it was a very clever and well-made fan film, especially for the graphics alone too, for them making it anime style.
Yeah, so you sent this to me, was it yesterday or today?
Yesterday morning, yeah.
So I was at the gym, you sent it to me, and I watched it, and I legit said to myself, when Mace popped up at the end, I was like, holy shit. I'm like, wow, like that works.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a solid, first of all, I'm a big anime guy, like fan. That for a fact. So anything, like whether it's Afro Samurai or whatever, I'm watching it, So when I watched the first 2 minutes of this, I'm thinking, we need a full series on this, because this can work. And the way they shot it, the way the voices were, the way the storytelling, I love Thrawn. Thrawn was so perfect in this.
Yep.
They nailed him perfectly, and I can't wait for the episode 2 of this series, because it's so good. Like, I was very impressed with it. I think it fits well, and this is why I love these fan films, because they do such a great job. You can tell these people really do their research, and they really want this to work.
Oh yeah, I was thoroughly surprised. Like, all three of us, we were all shocked by the end of it, because we generally know the story from the Zahn books, and when you get to the end of it and it's not Sabayoth and it's Mace, you're like, what in the world's going on here? And then, like I said, you look at the comments and it's like, oh, that's really clever what they're doing there, because they're making it fit the original 6.
Right.
Yeah, as somebody that hasn't really dived a lot into Legends, and it's been literally 20 years since I've read the Thrawn trilogy, I'm going scratching my head like, wait, I'm pretty sure that's not how this thing goes.
Yeah, but you can see where they make it fit though, Chris. You know what I mean? Like, even though you haven't read it in a long time, like just with that context, like I said, they recovered Sabayoth's DNA in like the original story. So them doing that similarly with Mace, it's like, wow, that like fits perfectly, because they recovered it from Sabayoth, who was a fallen Jedi, whatever, and like,
and honestly, Ben, I took it as not as a clone, and that's a great way you're seeing it, because that does tie in well. I took it as Mace Windu survived that fall, and that he recovered him, and that he probably held him prisoner and was like, hey, like, Mace, I know you're looking at all the other Jedi, and I think Mace probably was like, you know what, Palpatine, you might be right a little bit, and probably just openly joined him after like some time of like torture or just being isolated and recovery. Because Mace seems like the type where he understands the Jedi ideals, and he's probably all about their dogma, but also was like, nah, this don't always work. And I can see him enjoying the appeal of the dark side. So
Yeah.
when he was there protecting the mountain for as long as he has been, he's like, yeah. And even Palpatine died, he's still protecting it. So that isn't just blind loyalty. It's like, no, I'm openly into the cause.
Well, that and like, especially like going off of like legend stuff, like, Mace like always was kind of right there on that edge.
Yeah.
Like, his lightsaber fighting style was really close to dark side's fighting style, like all those things. So it's like it is, whether it's a clone or a real Mace Windu, like, I thought that was a nice twist to the end of that episode.
Right.
Yeah, and plus I love how, Heir of the Empire was made well before the prequel trilogy, so we didn't know what Coruscant looked like. We didn't know half these places, what they looked like. It was all imagined in our heads as we're reading, but now having the backbone of the 9 movies technically now, it's really cool, especially when you go to Mount Tantus and it's literally like we see it in the Bad Batch. It's like, oh crap, they straight up pulled that from the Bad Batch, and that got me really on edge. So I'm like, oh, this is so cool, and that brings me back to the Bad Batch of like, oh man, are we gonna actually see Thrawn go there at some point? It feels like that's a good tee up, but with this thing, it was good because like, I'm not reading the Thrawn trilogy. One day maybe I'll reread it, but not something more digestible to be like, okay, so was that true, guys? Like, was Mara Jade actually working with Talon Card? Was that a thing?
Yep. So
okay.
I'm definitely the most like recent one. I went through those books a couple of years ago in like 2023, and that's pretty much the storyline with her, like through those 3 books. It's like she starts out, she at some point in the timeline, she leaves being the Emperor's hand, like at the fall of the Empire, basically. So that's why, she hates Luke to start, because she views Luke as taking out the Emperor, which, she grew up in the Empire. So basically she hated Luke for that. And then she had to find a job, started working with the criminal side of things and with the that sort of people, and she got into Talon Card's group, worked her way up, and then her character slowly became more and more like fleshed out. But yeah, that is where her starting point was, and like that exact conversation that's happening with Talon Card. Every conversation, actually, let me reiterate this: every conversation you see in this episode of Heir to the Empire takes place in the first book. Like, even the Luke part at the beginning, that's literally one of the opening sequences from the first book, is Luke talking with Obi-Wan and all that. So yeah, they literally lifted all those lines. The only difference is Mace Windu saying he's Mace Windu. Other than that, it's all right from the book.
And I love the design. I love the art style. We had seen really good animation. I'm trying to recall, it was like a year ago or last year, we were talking about another fan film that was animated, and we were just all so shocked by the quality of it. It had something to do with the Clone Wars, I think, maybe. Tying into something, but if it doesn't come back to me, it doesn't come back to me. But it's just great to see, like, one person being able to, like, I looked it up, like, one person, it seems like, was able to just do all this. But what's cool is they actually have a bunch of credited voice cast from different people off Instagram or Fiverr or different things like that. So it's nice getting, like, not synthesized AI, but they actually got some people to partake in this project. And yeah, there's been a lot of things in the works. I'm still waiting for that Shadows of the Empire fan film that I know they were preparing for it. I think it's maybe at a pause right now, but now it's supposed to be live action. But yeah, this is fantastic. Though. Yeah, this is great. Milton, let's go over to yours.
Yeah, so I've been talking about this channel for about a year or so now, and it's the YouTube channel called Prism, Prism. And the guy who runs it, he does a lot of like AI storytelling. So a lot of his stories, he focuses on AI technology, and just he uses a lot of like still footage, but makes it to what the world is. So I know he's done one on The Matrix. He's done obviously the sequel trilogy, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then he's currently working on a Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which is about 11 parts. I think he's finishing up part 12 and 13. That should be the finale for that. But I discovered this like about a year ago. I don't know how I got turned on to it, but I was looking up something on the sequel trilogy, and I found this in the story that I shared with you guys. He did a sequel trilogy, and the first one is called, What If Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens was awesome. And so when I saw that title, I'm like, okay, where's he going with this? And so pretty much this guy has done each sequel trilogy. He redid them, but in the AI way, and telling the story. He uses the principal characters still, but he changes the narrative significantly. And he ties it into, obviously, the original trilogy, but also he takes the best of the sequel trilogy, but makes it better. And the story is so much more tight. And for the Force Awakens, I can't get enough of these stories. This one's 25 minutes long. The visuals for the AI technology is gorgeous. Now, they're not always consistent because sometimes Luke looks a little different or Han looks a little different or whatever. But the overall narrative for the story is amazing. Like they definitely pick up when Ben Solo is about 28, 29 years old. He's finishing up his Jedi trials. He's about to become a Jedi Knight. Rey, so Rey actually is already around. She works for the Empire. Finn is a stormtrooper. Phasma's still in it. But the difference is Rey is a badass from the jump, and she's working with Snoke to penetrate the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just gorgeous. Like, I don't know, I know the story, so I don't care if I talk about it. What do you guys think of it? Because I don't know, did you guys actually watch the full 25 minutes?
Oh, I watched it. I freaking loved it. I feel like this is a fan dream, man, because in my head, I'm checking off boxes. I'm going, ooh, they addressed this. They addressed that. I feel like this person went through with a surgical strike and said, what things didn't work? How can we remedy them? And literally did all of that.
So let's break this down slightly. Because I'm actually curious about you and what you thought about this, because I know Ben probably loved every minute of it.
Yep.
And I know, Chris, you're definitely, I think the three of us, you probably like the sequels a little bit stronger than we do. So I'm curious to see what you liked and what worked compared to what didn't work for The Force Awakens.
Well, first of all, and we got YouTube royalty in the chat. We got Hannah the Rayside is in the chat, so I'm sure she'll enjoy this episode, especially with sequel trilogy, what ifs and all. But yeah, we're talking about fan films. Everybody joining in. But I think really did this well. And I think Hannah just talked about this very sort of thing on the Star Wars Underworld podcast from this previous week. Is this actually felt different than anything else that's come before? It didn't feel like the prequels. It didn't feel like the original trilogy. It did its own thing to kind of push the entire narrative of Star Wars forward. It felt like Episode 7 in a way that Episode 7 in reality felt more like a reboot of Episode 4. It did something that just did not feel like we've gotten before. I think the best, one of the greatest things it did is right off the rip, it just goes into the politics of it all. What has been happening in the last 35 years? Like the Imperial Remnant actually just became like their own little entity. And then, yeah, I loved like the whole thing with Hux and the mystery of it all, and they were actually trying to pretend like they weren't connected to this other group that infiltrated, but that yet they were. It was like all this. It was really cleverly written. I gotta admit.
Very well done. And Ben, I'll get to you in a second. I think that what stood out to me about the whole political game within the first part of the sequel trilogy that he did was that they had Ben Solo question. He's like, well, should we try to work with them? And Luke and Han and Leia were like, kid, you weren't around during the Empire. You don't understand. Like, that was hell for us. And he's like, well, people change. And Luke's like, nah, I'm not trying to hear that. Like, Luke was saying that.
Yeah.
And Luke was, you can't trust these people. And even Han Solo's like, kid, you just weren't there. And it was nice to see that, okay, we already got the seeds planted of, okay, Ben Solo's a little different. He loves his family, but he's not like them ordeally, which I think which influences him in the second and third parts of the series that he creates. But Ben, I'm curious to see what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I mean, this this weekend when you had sent it over, this was the second time I watched it since, whenever you sent it, whenever you first found it. And rewatching it again, like for me, I think the big thing that got solidified once again was what you both said was like this feels like a good natural step for Star Wars continuing from episode 6 to episode 7 versus like what we said before, like I do have my pros and cons when it comes to the sequels, but episode 7 was definitely the most safe of the three because it was kind of like a pseudo soft reboot of A New Hope. And that's where, like, I'll never forget back in the day, like Kieran, like, Harloff and all them talk on Collider back then, and they mentioned, one of the critiques of that movie is like, as soon as you get to the Han Solo part in the movie, that's where everything goes off the rails because you go from it being a new movie to basically a reboot again. And my thing is with this, it feels like an actual, you know what I mean, like a natural progression of the story versus like, hey, let's just try to like check boxes for memorabilia's sake. And right. Like this, I think the big thing I liked about it is just the fact that like Rey and Kylo or Rey and Ben are switched. Because my thing with the sequels, it's like that was one of the biggest things I think they missed out on when it came to episode 8. I really wish they would have done the swap in episode 8 where Ben went good, Rey went bad.
Yeah.
And like I like that they're starting out with these guys being good and on their actual corresponding sides. I really do like how they did that. And it also I don't know, it's really great seeing someone come up with this. Like to me it's like one of those things, Milton, like you always say, like however you say it, like you get these fans coming up with these really good stories, and it's like, sure, we may not be able to write the perfect scripts, but coming up with some bullet points, like you said, Chris, even, it's like with surgical precision, they addressed so many of the little critiques and nitpicks and things of The Force Awakens. Like, this movie just feels like it's a good, like, genuine next step for the Star Wars franchise.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say absolutely, and I think those are probably the best way to say it. It was a natural progression. And is this the most perfect fan film? No, I think there's some things that could have been done differently if it had to be done. But I'd say of a percentage, 90% of this works for me perfectly. And I think what makes this work is that, one, it wasn't safe. It took chances. Just like the sequel trilogy took chances, and I will never fault it for trying. But the difference is, it had enough respect for what came before it to build upon it, to challenge it, to make it fresh, to also say, hey, you know what? This is familiar, this is new, and this is going to tie into everything that you've seen, whether it's from the prequels or to the original trilogy. That's where I think the sequel trilogy kind of got off when it comes to Disney. This particular fan film does a good job at respecting what came before it, building upon it, and saying, hey, this is something also new.
Well, Milton, let me throw this out there for you, Milton. I feel like this, if you compare Force Awakens and this fan film, I feel like this would be more in the vein of where if George Lucas was making the movie, because the thing is with George Lucas, say what you want, he may do some nostalgic things here and there, like Anakin and 3PO or whatever, but the thing is, at the end of the day, George Lucas didn't care to, go bold with it on things. I mean, look, people criticized Jar Jar, and he made Jar Jar pretty much the reason Palpatine helped him get into power, basically. And like, you have Lucas doing those sorts of things, and like this to me feels like more of the progression of where Lucas would have potentially went with it than what we got.
You know what? I never thought of it that way, but you're now thinking about it, you're right. Because I listened to and you're right. I feel like the way Han Solo, Luke, and Leia were used in this, I think is the perfect way to ease them out to have Poe, Rey, Finn, and Ben to be the lead, throughout as the series progressed. Even the politics stuff was addressed. And it wasn't in your face. Like, we needed to know where the galaxy was. And I think that's one of the biggest That's one of the biggest things that bothered me about the sequel trilogy is the fact that we start out from the moment, and not Canto Bight. What's the planet that they were on when
Prime?
Yeah, but like seeing that, but I need to understand where's the galaxy at in 30 years. They do. I mean, the first 10 minutes the first 5 minutes of this video, they explain it. They're like, "Hey, it's been a time of peace, blah blah blah." However, there's low key that remnants out there. Leia and Luke and trying to do X, Y, and Z. Han Solo's doing X, Y, and Z, and then boom, they get into it, and you see the peace, you see the progression of evil popping up, and you see the conflict like happening right away. I just love that.
Yeah, I like I think what this does well is like you're saying, the macro view of the galaxy of like what is happening, why is this conflict so important, what's the background of the New Republic, blah blah blah. But then they introduce really good interpersonal relationships. I love the triangle sort of thing between Han, Poe, and Ben. It's like Ben is so with the Force and training that he's not the son that Han really would hope that he would be, because then he also has Poe, who is this flight leader that he looks at him as more of the son that he wished his actual son was. So like there's this tension between these different three characters already. The fact that we're getting to see Ben Solo, we're getting to see the training ground, the academy on Yavin 4, and getting to see like the ramifications of episode 4 with the Death Star and all that kind of stuff. But the fact that it's like we're not really dealing with destroying another Death Star at the end of this movie. We have the Star Forge out of all things from my favorite game, Knights of the Republic, popping up right at the end with the voice of Palpatine. It's like, yeah, this stuff is making a lot more sense than throwing Palpatine in at the last quarter of the game. Like they're already teasing him in this, and just it's not having to deal with like planet destroying weapons. We're seeing Luke pull off an amazing feat of power saving his friends in this one movie. We're seeing everybody shine.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Okay, for those who haven't seen this story, at one point the Imperial Remnant decides to blow up the Senate, right? And Luke somehow, with his spidey sense, freaking protects him, Han, and Leia from this big like nuclear explosion, pretty much, with Leia helping him with the Force. Like she taps into her power to help him hold like the bubble of like how dope was that?
Yep. That had me so hyped. Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I 100% agree with you, Milton. Like that's what we wanted. And like the thing is, I know, everybody always gives the justification, yada yada, people progress or whatever when they get older, whatever. But this is entertainment at the end of the day. And we wanted to see that on screen, and like getting that in this is more satisfying than what we got from Force Awakens, his 30-second appearance. So like I just think that moment too is such a great moment for like the Force Awakens. Also, in terms of Milton, especially us, like being like big Legends fans, these are the types of feats you'd see Luke doing in Legends, like something like this, like saving Leia and Han, and Leia helping out, and like these sorts of things. Like I just think they nailed it with that scene. Like when I was rewatching it, I was like, man, this is like, it was just giving me goosebumps watching it, because it's like this is what we need.
No, go ahead, Chris.
They make a better idea of like the pseudo resistance that basically Finn and Ben make, because like the New Republic is like, oh, they're gonna have to go to the Senate, they're gonna have to talk about rescuing these poor indentured like people that are on Iriadu. And I love how they use Iriadu, because that's one of the biggest points in the High Republic right now. I'm like, oh, they're using Iriadu, that's Tarkin's home planet, and it's a whole bunch of history in the High Republic there. But like, so we get to actually see the resistance form real time, essentially. Whereas in the movie itself, we're like, oh, this is just another rebellion, but we don't know how this thing is formed. So we're getting to see, causation, reaction, certain things in the moment. We're getting to see like these big moments in the Senate where it's like all of a sudden, like Hux is like, oh yeah, like, why are you guys attacking? what's this? And it's like, Leia's like, oh crap, like we wouldn't do that. What, like all these, the perfect storm of variables orchestrated perfectly by Hux and the Imperials to get them to goad them into an all-out galaxy war.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
It's so good. Like it's like the Imperial Remnant played their hand perfectly. Snoke played his hand perfectly, and obviously, I think at the end of this, Palpatine doesn't return. He returns in the second piece, but they're hinting at him coming back.
Yeah.
But even like and that's the thing, you can feel Palpatine's hand throughout this whole thing, even though he's not there. Like they're working towards him, and I'm thinking, okay, this felt right, and I felt because I think about the especially behind the scenes of whenever Rian Johnson did The Last Jedi, and the writer that he had, I forget his name, he talked about anytime they was writing a scene for Luke, they felt that Luke overshadowed everybody. And I disagreed with that because after watching this multiple times, Luke, yes, he's a featured lead, but he doesn't overshadow anyone throughout the whole series. Like, they do a good job at making everyone feel important. Like, the Han Solo death in this played a huge part. When Rey shows up at the temple with Phasma and Finn, and we'll get to Finn and how he turned, because I felt they did his turn way better than they did in the movie. When Rey throws her saber and it kills Han, like I was like, whoa! Like, and then how like Kylo but Ben reacted to that. I'm like, that's perfect, and how that set him up to be like, okay, I'm taking revenge on you, like Rey, you're done, and how that and Chris, how you mentioned, or Ben mentioned how it flips. That's when I think the flip happens because Ben's like, okay, I want revenge. Rey's like, well, I'm here to do what the Imperial Remnant want, but then she doesn't know what she wants yet. And I just love that. And then Finn's turn and how he didn't want to kill, and even Luke kind of saw it. He's like, no, he doesn't want to kill nobody. He's just lost. And just how they take him in. I was like, okay, this is perfect. Like, everything worked. Everything worked for that.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the way, like you said, the way they did Han's death was really well written, generated, whatever you want to call it. I think it was really well done. And like my thing with all this too, it's just the fact of like, I guess how they're just naturally like fleshing out these characters, you know, like it just feels more. I don't know how to describe it, but you know what I mean. Like it just feels more natural. Like, you know, when you look at the characters from what we got to what we're like even viewing in this first episode or first movie of these What If fan films, like I really think they nailed it with this. And I think also you mentioned it like before you jumped to the Han thing, like even with Palpatine, I think one of the biggest flaws of the sequels is like they should have just, you know, been hinting at Palpatine's return from the jump, make that be the threat, you know, and then have Palpatine come back maybe at the end of the second movie. So like I think you know, them hinting at it like this was good. And then of course, like I mentioned, the way they did like Han's death, I thought was really well done, because I was wondering too when I was watching it the first time, I was like, I wonder if they're gonna like kill off Han still, or you know, I wonder if they're gonna like not do that, and you know, sure be it, they did. Like, it was really well done.
Yeah. So amazing stuff here, everybody. Amazing stuff. We have Skywalker Academy sending a recommendation. Best fan film ever is by a film blog with PHILM blog called Star Wars Origins. It didn't change anything from canon or the EU. It doesn't try to mix them. It's well written and acted. So we're going to have to go ahead and check that one out. Thank you so much for the recommendation, Skywalker's Academy. Have either of you heard of that one?
No, I haven't. I'm actually about to look it up right now. What's it called? Star Wars Origins?
Yeah.
Star Wars Origins. I'll check it out because I'm always into watching these. If it's a strong story and it captivates me and it challenges me as a fan, then I'm all about it. Actually, is it? Yeah, I think I pulled it up right here. It's yeah, I got it right here. Star Wars Origins. It was about 20 minutes.
Oh, sweet.
About 2.7 million views. Was this about 5? Yeah, I'll have to check this out.
Me too. And that's just, this is the what if. This is the what if situation. Now, we have theoretically a new Star Wars trilogy that is in the works. Whether it be Daisy Ridley with Rey or somebody, we have a new Jedi Order that's in the works.
Right.
After seeing all these darn things, I hope that we get a drastic, radical change like the things we're talking about tonight. I hope Lucasfilm has been... I know it's not great to listen to fans, let your creatives do what they feel natural, but to a certain degree, I think that fan feedback should allow them to creatively think about something that might pull stuff from the EU, might pull stuff from Legends, because they haven't done that. And I feel like that should be, or even current canon stuff like in the books and novels. I hope people get inspired, man, because
No, Chris, I think that's an excellent point. I think, look, I'm not an executive of a movie studio. I'm not a storyteller. I'm not Kathleen Kennedy. I'll be the first one to say that. But what I do know is that I do understand what a good story looks like. I am a fan, an observer who have watched movies for the past 37 years and can tell you that isn't good, or this story doesn't make any sense, or hey, this doesn't line up narratively for what you guys told. So, and I think a lot of people are like that. And I think when it comes to any property, whether it's Star Wars, Marvel, DC, or whatever, if you have these fans out here who have invested their time and money, who have literally taken classes to understand storytelling, philosophy, Star Wars, whatever's told, and they're making videos on YouTube, and these videos are getting 100 plus million views. These companies will be foolish not to say, you know what, maybe we have something here. Maybe we can reach out to X, Y, and Z and say, hey, let's get him to consult. What made you make that choice? What made you write this? Or what made you see that? Well, maybe because I saw X, Y, and Z. And you know what? They can use that idea, credit that person, and build upon that. Like that, you know how much comfort that would bring to fandom, how much unity that would bring to the property of Star Wars if you told us that, oh my God, we hired X, Y, and Z from YouTube and he helped us craft this and you guys loved it. I'd be the first one to stand up and say, that's awesome. Good job, Disney. Good job, Lucasfilm. You're finally embracing the fandom to be a part of this property.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. I think that's the big thing, kind of like the missing factor. I think that's why a lot of people, give Dave Filoni so much credit, because he's like kind of one of us in there. And I think when it comes to all of this stuff with the fans, it's like, look at like so many of like the Legends fans over the years. I mean, like even myself, like the old saying, there's jokes, and you've heard it before, Milton. When it comes to like Bill Belichick, he's forgotten more football than he knows. Like that's kind of like me with Star Wars Legends books. Like I've read more Legends books than like I can remember, basically, because I've read like every Legend book basically. And like my thing is, it's like there's so much good, rich material out there to like, you have these fans that know the ins and outs of like what works, what doesn't, roughly. And like you said, you can look at a story and identify if it's a solid Star Wars story or not. Like you can, we may not be the best script writers here, but we can look at a solid story and identify if it is a good one or if it's just kind of like a mid one or whatever. And like I think that's one of the big things with Star Wars. They're kind of missing with all this, where it's just like that's kind of like the missing piece. And I think that's part of the reason why, Chris, you briefly mentioned it before we got to this like final segment. Like you have Daisy Ridley potentially coming back for like 3 or 4 movies potentially, and like the thing is with her, maybe they took feedback and we're gonna. Because like for example, if they would continue the sequels where they were directly, and like you may just go and just kind of waste another potentially like maybe $800 million making 4 movies, versus like if they hypothetically they took feedback and they're trying to maybe correct things, like maybe they'll that's where we get more of like potentially like Rey being fleshed out better, or these other extended characters being fleshed out better. And I think that's kind of it's hard to be optimistic sometimes when it comes to some of these things with Star Wars, everybody, but like that's where my hope is with the future of the franchise. We have these potential upcoming projects with Rey versus, instead of looking at it potentially negatively, it's like, hey, let's look at it like positively, like maybe they are taking feedback and we're going to get this kind of like course correction to kind of what we were thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken long enough, right? Like, it'll have been like 11 or 12 years since Force Awakens by the time this Rey movie comes out the rate they're going, right? They just switched writers again. So at least, like, while we might get mad that it's like, oh my gosh, they went through another writer, maybe that is a good thing. Simply for the fact that, okay, they actually are like really serious about the story. They're just not mailing this in just for cash flow. They're like, okay, we got to win a lot of these fans back that are disgruntled now. We'll take bits and pieces from this script, from that script. I mean, hey, look, Milton, look at Rogue One, right? We had Gareth Edwards, we had Gary Whitta, we had another writer. There was like 3 writers, but they each took different things from each of the writers, and then we get the best Star Wars movie of the last 2 decades. You know what I mean? So it could be daunting and annoying to see, but if it's taken this much time because they're trying to get it right, then I got to give props to them to keep on trying. So
absolutely can't disagree with that. I was just watching something today and looking at the original trilogy and how they were made, even the prequels. It took them about 3 years to make each movie. Mm-hmm. Went through multiple writers at times, so I think that's it's okay time, but again, I'm giving it a shot, man. Like, I'm being optimistic. I'm getting my head back when it comes to Star Wars because I love this, and all I can do is just support it, and hopefully that Kathleen and the team can really just give us something that we're really excited for moving forward.
Yeah, and on that note, I don't think it's any better way to end the show for this evening for Outer Rim Transmission 187. Throw it over to you, Milton. Where can the people follow you online?
Yeah, so they can follow me on X at MiltonWeber7 or on Instagram at Milton7Weber. Come hit your boy up, talk Star Wars, talk sports. Again, we can talk the Eagles all day because we're Super Bowl 59 champions. Let's go. But yeah, right now I'm just preparing to get married in about 4 months. So hopefully that goes well, and looking forward to the rest of the year of 2025.
There we go. Very go. All right, Ben, what about you?
Yeah, you can find me on X and Instagram at RealBenMaynard. Right now, it's kind of like the down season from football, so it's going to be mainly just me talking about Star Wars and fitness, and that's pretty much it, basically. So, yeah, come talk.
Yeah, well, I'm feeling it in here. I know people online are rumbling about Andor. I mean, I feel like we're imminently going to get a trailer, so as soon as we get that trailer, that week we'll be breaking it down on this channel. I've seen a trailer almost 2 years ago, so it's crazy that it's taken as long to get an official one that's not a potato quality from San Diego Comic, or not San Diego, but the other conventions that showed it. D23 is the other one. So yeah, we're looking out for that in between now and Celebration. As far as my channel, I've been delving more into gaming. So this week I did a video on my first 20 hours or so into the latest Xbox RPG Avowed. So go ahead and check that out, and check out my comic book reviews as always. That's going to do it. You can download, as I said off at the beginning there, you can download us on any podcast streaming app of your choice, and we will be back next Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern here, right on the Star Raptor YouTube. So for Milton, for Ben, for Chris, a.k.a. Star Raptor, that's going to do it for Outer Rim Transmission 187. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always, and transmission.